Well, greetings. As you can see, it snowed here just like it's snowing down south. It's winter. Woke up this morning and remembered another story. This story is, it's about Sitka Sound Navigation. And like all my stories, I've been telling the truth. I just kind of woke up this morning with a cup of coffee, and it all kind of came back to me. This also happened here in Sitka, and I'll have stories later of other places like Bristol Bay, and even some stories from Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and even far away as New Zealand. It was about 1993 or 94, and I used to go out all the time, skiff, and we'd get rockfish, and clams, and crab, and anything we needed. Now we don't get a lot of fog here in Sitka. Alaska Airlines keeps the aircraft that belongs in Juneau overnight in Sitka, because Juneau gets lots and lots of fog. And we'll get very little fog here in Sitka, so the jet can always, most of the time, take off in the morning, fly to Juneau, and then from there they go to Anchorage or Seattle, or wherever they're going. But this particular morning I decided to go out, and I had my skiff down, of course, down Old Thompson Harbor. And it was really foggy. Like I said, we don't get that fog very often. Now this is maybe 1995 would be the latest. But, you know, back then we didn't have GPS. And when the first GPS came in, you know, they were little handheld devices, and if you're lucky, you'd get a signal. And I bought one time, and for the first few years, you couldn't trust it. I mean, you better have your map and compass. Every time I'd be going up Olga and Neva Strait, look on the GPS, and it'd show me over here about a quarter mile going up the side of a mountain in my boat. Not very trustworthy. Sitka Sound is a strange place. Number one, it's a real rock patch. I mean, there are rocks everywhere. Real rocky place. And lots of little pinnacles, and at low tide, those rocks are sticking out of the water. The other thing about Sitka Sound, there's a lot of what they call magnetic anomalies, where you can go out somewhere and look at your compass on your boat, it's going around like this. There's 3 or 4 places like that. But anyway, I wanted to go out fishing. And I didn't want to sit there and wait for the tide. So I thought to myself, I wonder if I could get to Viscary Rocks using a compass and using a stopwatch. And I thought for a minute, man, this would be kind of dangerous. First thing was like, how am I going to get through all the rocks out of the harbor and heading in the right direction? Number 2, my biggest worry was, what if I run into another boat? Because I got like 14, 15 foot skiff. I'm not very big, and I can't see more than 20, 30 feet ahead of it. I thought, what the heck? I know how far it is to Viscary Rocks. Now here in Sitka and other places, other people come into town, they call Viscary Rocks very scary rocks. And there are a bunch of rock pinnacles that come up about 10 miles from Sitka. Out there, not quite in the middle of the Sitka Sound, but more over towards Mount Edgecombe. You can find them if you look on a map or a chart. So I took off early in the morning. It was sunny just like this, except there was a low area of fog. I couldn't see anything. So I started up the old skiff and slowly started going out of the harbor. And I noticed I passed the entrance to the harbor, the jetty, you know, you can see the rocks. Headed on out, took a compass bearing, and I thought I could do about 4 to 5 knots in the fog. It was still kind of scary because I was, like I said, afraid of going to run into somebody. So I took my compass bearing and traveling at about 4 or 5 knots. Like I said, we don't have GPS. We have no way to know how fast I'm really going. But I'm just kind of cruising along, and you can just barely... It was a nice flat day, which is one reason I decided to try it. So anyway, I'm just kind of cruising out there a little bit. You can just kind of hear the water lapping on the front of the skiff and on the sides, going along, and with my ears I could hear water lapping against rocks. So I knew, well, there's a pinnacle or a rock over here. You know, 3 or 4 nice big rock, almost island size in some cases, out in front of the harbor between me and the very scary rocks. Eventually I got past those because I could hear them behind me. I could hear every once in a while you could hear the swell come up and down in the distance off a rock. So I'm just kind of putting along. Water's lapping on front of the skiff. I'm watching my watch. And I figured, well, it's going to take me X amount of minutes at that speed to get to where I want to go. And the whole time I was kind of hoping, you know, geez, wouldn't it be nice if we just go out there a couple miles or whatever, and then the fog would be gone. That was my main, you know, I didn't think I was going to run into fog all the way out. That somewhere along the line the fog would thin out and I could start to see and so forth. But that didn't happen. It stayed just as foggy as can be. And then of course if you ever been in really low fog and you're trying to see, if you've got bright sunlight above you, it makes it even more difficult to see than if it was cloudy, because of all the refracted light and so forth and off the water. And I'm putting along, and sometimes I could hear in the distance, I could hear a boat motor or something off in the distance. I knew there was commercial fishermen out there somewhere, and of course they had radar. They would have probably spotted me but the trouble is, if they had their gear down and they're fishing, they don't want to get out of the way of me coming by. You know, I was a hazard to navigation. Which reminds me, when Sitka used to have a sawmill or a paper mill, they used to bring in rafts of logs from all over southeast Alaska to the pulp mill. And those bad weather, those rafts would break up. And so in the 80s and in the early 90s and stuff, up to about 93, there was always a chance of hitting a log. And I tell you, I saw some dangerous logs out there. I saw one like a telephone pole one time going up and down the water like this. It'd go under the water and then shoot back up. If one of those had hit a boat, I mean, just punch a hole right through it. So you always had to look out for the deadhead. We call them deadheads. So I'm continually going, watching my watch, and got awful quiet. But the only thing I could hear, you know, there wasn't any wind. The only thing I could hear was that water lapping on the side of the skiff. So I checked my watch, kind of guessed. I think I'm just about there. So I put the skiff out of gear. I just shut it off and I sat. And I could hear something. Water hit rocks. So I started up the skiff a little bit. Again, kind of headed towards the sound. And there right in front of me was this big rock with the water moving back and forth on it. And I wasn't sure where I was at. So I shut off the skiff again. Sat there, and eventually the fog was starting to break. And when the fog broke, I was even amazed myself. I was sitting right there at the very scary rocks. Somehow I had hit that thing. I hit the most eastern rock, somehow I'd come right up to it. I mean, it was like a bullet going to a target. I had no idea that I could do that. But that was probably one of the scariest skiff rides I ever took in my life, because I didn't know if I was going to hit something or something was going to hit me, or if I'd end up somewhere else and my compass may have been wrong. But anyway, that's my scary navigation of Sitka Sound story. I recommend that you don't try it. That was a very dangerous thing to do, looking back at it. Now, nowadays with GPS, and if you've got radar and GPS, you wouldn't have any trouble getting out there, because you could see where the other boats are, and at the same time you know exactly where you're at. The GPSs today are far better than the ones we used to have years ago. So I hope you kind of enjoyed that little story. I'm adding it to my other stories on my Exploring Sitka Alaska YouTube channel. I think this is the 5th or 6th one. I'm going to have a lot more, and like I said, it's not only going to be about Sitka, but there'll be some stories of other areas as they kind of come to me. Sounds like the neighbors down the hill down there are banging on something, huh? But anyway, yeah, I happen to be sitting in the backyard today. I couldn't get out the trike or anything because of the snow and the ice. Didn't want to deal with it. Didn't want to try walking. I can't walk very far anyway. So I'm sitting in my backyard. So I hope you enjoyed this little video, and I'll try to make some more as time goes on. Maybe every couple of weeks I'll put one on the YouTube channel. I'm also got set it up so that there's playlists. So if you went to the channel, you just look at the playlist and it'll show all the different stories. A lot of people right now are really interested in my last one about the nuclear weapons in Sitka. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. So anyway, thanks for watching. Until later.